one-step conversion. So international system of units, or the metric system, which is what most of the world goes by, has a different way to measure than in the US. So for weight, you might actually be weighed in kilograms. Or if you have a smaller unit, right, it could be just grams. If you need something smaller to be measured. Then, when we talk about volume, we're going to talk about it in terms of like liters. And what's great is about the metric system is this is considered right here, like liters and grams, like that's our base unit. And then we can have a prefix that can either indicate that it's a really large measurement, like kilograms, or a smaller one, which would be milligrams, which would be smaller. That's the great thing about the metric system is you have a base unit and then you have a prefix to indicate if it's either a small or larger one or if it's just a base unit. So it kind of helps a lot. Then when we talk about the distance or like the length, we can talk about it in terms of meters, which is another, right? Millimeter would be a much smaller one, but a kilometer is a much larger distance, right? So then we talk about the US, right? Well, for mass, we can talk about it in terms of pounds, right? That's usually how we measure ourselves, but you can also talk about it in terms of ounces, right? How many ounces does it weigh? Then, when we talk about volume, we can also have ounces, which is now a volume, right? Like how much a space takes up, right? So an ounce, right? Or you can talk about it in terms of cups or quarts or gallons. So these are all measurements, right, for volume for the US. But then when we talk about distance, we're going to talk about it in terms of, right, we can see like a nice inches. We can talk about in feet or yards or miles. Now let's go ahead and look at the first example. So example 1, if a newborn measures to be 19 inches long, how long is the baby in centimeters? Well, 19 inches. Well, what's our relationship between inches to centimeters? Because that's how we're going to go ahead and convert this into centimeters, right? Well, we know 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. So when we set this up, we have inches here, and we do a conversion factor. So we can either use it as like this or like this. And the thing is, right, when we know that when something's on the top and on the bottom, it cancels out. So we need inches, right, to be on the bottom when we use the conversion factor that goes right there. So we're going to go ahead and use this one. So 2.54 centimeters is equal to 1 inch. Well, what happens is this inches cross out, which is exactly what we want, because we need inches to go away, because we need to measure in, right now, centimeters. So we get centimeters on the top, which is exactly what we want. And what we do is we just multiply it like it's a fraction. We multiply what's on the top, then you multiply what's on the bottom, which is just over 1. So it's just going to become whatever's on the top. Right, so 19 times 2.54. Let's get our calculators out. And we get 48.26. And this is in centimeters. Right, because this would just be right over 1, because 1 times 1 is 1, which really just gets us to 48.26. Now, let's go ahead. So we would actually just, don't even worry about that 1, but you can know that when it's over 1, it's just whatever is on top of them. So we would say 48.26 centimeters is how long the baby is. Now let's go ahead and look at the next example. So example 2, a person weighs 57 kilograms. Let's convert kilograms to pounds. So we have 57 kilograms. We're going to just keep it like that. And what do we know about this relationship? Well, we know 2.2 pounds is equal to 1 kilogram. So we can put 2.2 pounds over 1 kilogram, or we can go 1 kilogram over 2.2 pounds. Now, the reason why we can use these conversions like this right, they're called conversion factors, is because this is all equal to 1, right? 2.2 pounds is equal to 1 kilogram. If something weighs 2.2 pounds, it means it also weighs 1 kilogram, right? They're interchangeable, but one way is to measure in the metric system, one's in the US. So that's why we can use these as like just fractions. And when you multiply it by the whatever number you're trying to convert it from one to another, it's like multiplying it by 1. So let's go ahead and take this. So we need to go from 57 kilograms to pounds. We need this kilograms to be on the bottom here because we need to get rid of it. So that means pounds has to go on the top. So when we look at our conversion factors, we need to use this first one that we have here. And then we would just go ahead and multiply. We would multiply 57 times 2.2, and that would get us 2 pounds, right? And then we multiply whatever on the bottom, which is just 1 times 1, so that's 1. So let's get our calculators out. We have 57 times 2.2, and that's equal to 125.4. And that would be pounds, right? Because these kilograms crossed out, and we're left with just pounds. So what are we left with? Well, 125.4 pounds. That's how much that person, right, weighs. Example 3, convert 16 gallons to liters. So if we're going from gallons, right, to liters, well, there's a conversion factor, right? So 1 gallon, which is equal to 3.785 liters, right? And so L stands for liters, right? And gallon can just be GAL. And so we can use the conversion factor like this or like this, right? We can just flip it either way because it's really just multiplying it by 1, right? These mean the same thing, so you can go ahead and multiply. And the reason why we do this, right, if we have 16 gallons and we need to get to liters, well, we need to put gallons on the bottom because we have to get rid of gallons, and so therefore liters is on top. And so therefore we're going to go ahead and go with this one, right, because that gives us the liters on the top and then the gallons on the bottom. We just go ahead and cancel out those gallons, and we can go 16 times, right, 3.785 liters, and what does that get us? So we'll get our calculator out. And we got 60.56, and that would be in liters, because we just have the 1 on the bottom, which is just then 60.56 liters on the top. We don't even need to include it. So that would be our solution.